and today I'm going to be talking about how to study anatomy in lockdown. So the first thing you need is notes. So, you know, like a nice little buttock drawing there. So either like your lecture notes or your handbook, which I think most courses use, and they basically like give you stuff to fill in. If you haven't filled that in, that's kind of like your first port of call. So if you haven't done that, do that first. Number one. Right. And the second thing, once you have got your notes kind of sorted out, you know the basics, and you want to study the information, what you need to do is familiarize yourself with the structures, because anatomy is all about knowing where things go. So what layer is the pronator quadratus in, or brachialis radialis? These sorts of things. You need to know where muscles are, you need to know where veins are. Are they deep? Are they superficial? All of these terminology you need to understand in a physical sense, because it's really hard to understand anatomy when you're just learning it from a book. You really need to contextualize it. That is the word. Contextualize anatomy. Put it on your own body. So if you're studying the movements of arm muscles, then think about flexion. So your anterior compartment flexes your muscles. So do that. And then when you're in the exam and you think, oh, flexion, it does this. What muscle is this? It's your bicep. There you go. It's all about creating those connections. And by doing that, you are strengthening the memories for that knowledge in your brain, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing. Putting it into context in your own body. The next thing that I suggest is to try and help with that contextualization as well, is using 3D online models. There are several free available options that you can use, and they're really good. The one I really enjoy is Biodigital. I'll put a demonstration of Biodigital here, but it's really good, and I'm also linking it down below, as well as a bunch of other websites that are really good, like the University of Texas e-skeleton, where they have the entire skeleton. You can pick different bones, it will show you the bones. Really good. There's also virtual lab dissectors. The good thing about lab dissectors is that because we're in lockdown, obviously we don't have that access to our specimens that are in the anatomy labs in our universities. But with the online lab dissector, you can almost, I mean, they are simulations of dissection, so you can pretend to be dissecting even though you aren't really, but it's as close as you're going to get. And so I've linked that down below as well, and that's just another really helpful resource to use to practice and go over and actually see cadaveric images, if that's the right word, so that when it's in your spotter exam, you're not like, oh, that's how the muscle looks. I don't know. That's what the heart looks like in situ. I can't remember. These are all things that you don't want to happen in the exam, and that's why if you practice it now with an online dissector, you won't be missing out, even though you are kind of missing out for not having the lab. But anyways, the lab dissector, the virtual one, is as good as you're going to get. Another thing that I wanted to say with familiarizing yourself with structures such as bones. So for example, behind me there, so this is a diagram of bones that I drew. So they are the bones, or the osteology, bony skeleton of the lower limb. Right, and you can see that I have drawn the femur, tibia, fibula, and then the metatarsals, the tarsals, and, you know, phalangeal bones. But what I wanted to say was, I also labelled them. But why I've put this on there, which is above the desk. So I put this on the wall. I'm going to put it down now, because it's something that I look at every day, and so slowly over time I will take in that information subconsciously, even if I'm not actively always like, okay, lateral condyle, lateral condyle, lateral condyle. Over time, because I'm looking at it every day or a few times every day, my brain will start to associate that shape of the bone with the bone part. So I will see the label and I will see that part of the bone, so lesser trochanter for example, and then over time my brain will build up an association for that shape with the name, and then when I see it in the spotter, if it points to the lesser trochanter or the tibial tuberosity or whatever it is, my brain will immediately say, oh yeah, I remember seeing that, I saw that about 50 times and I know exactly what that is. So for me, my exam is only going to be on the lower limb and neuroanatomy, so I don't really need to worry about many other bones, except for the cranial bones, which is just, I wasn't about to draw those, not happening. But it also, if you don't want to draw things, you can always just print them out or have them as your desktop screen, you know, wherever is a place that you see very often. I mean, I know a lot of people put like maths equations in their bathroom, so if you want to put bones in your, not actual bones, but like drawings of bones or muscles or whatever an anatomical structure is, put it somewhere that you're going to be looking at a lot, because you will then form those connections. Tip number 4, draw. Now I know a lot of people in anatomy, they say, oh yeah, I can't draw, I don't have good drawing skills, yeah. Now I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter. If you're studying, you're drawing for yourself and nobody else is going to see it, and so it really doesn't matter. But there is, I think, science between drawing structures and remembering them, because if you think back to primary school, at least for me, we had to like draw around the shapes of a word and then we had to remember that, and then somehow learning the shape of the word helped us to remember the actual word itself. So in my mind I'm applying the same logic in that if I draw things, then I will remember their certain features, I will remember their names, where they go, all of that sort of thing. And it doesn't have to be neat like the thing that I showed you at all, it can just be like a rough sketch. It just doesn't have to be pretty, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyone could do it, and it just helps you to, again, familiarize yourself with the structure. And for your body as well, like your hand, it's all muscle memory as well, remembering how that shape worked. Because although you won't be drawing in the exam, you will remember the shape of that muscle or bone or whatever. And obviously that can't be done with every structure, but for some structures that can be done, and it will help you to remember. So that's all for like familiarizing yourself with structures, which is kind of like the main thing with anatomy, is just learn your structures and then you'll kind of figure it out, because when you're in the spotter exam you want to orient yourself, and so if you're familiar with the structures around inferior, superior to structure X that they're asking you about, then you're more likely to be able to answer that question correctly, because you'll understand the functionality of the structures around the thing that's being asked about, and even if you didn't quite remember what exactly it is, you will be able to figure it out from context. Although I see that with the online exam it can be hard to orient yourself, you can't just like get up and walk around the table and like look at it from a different angle. You're given one photo, one image, and that's it. So it is going to be hard, and I'm not looking forward to it, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be okay. And then the final thing that I want to say that's a good kind of revision tip, mnemonics. Mnemonics? I always wonder if I'm saying it wrong. Probably am. But anyways, I wanted to say they're also a really good tool, because, you know, when you have a phrase to remember something by, or a song or whatever, it makes it more fun, and especially if it's like rhyming or it's weird, you know, it doesn't really make much sense to some degree. like Harry Potter riding a mop to the moon. I've just made that up. I don't think that's an actual mnemonic. But anyway, the one that I've been using for cranial nerves is to take a family vacation, go Vegas after hours. So there you go. There's the 12 cranial nerves. So that's just another kind of helpful technique to use. I am going to continue studying. I have a fair bit to study, although I'm taking it quite easy because, again, this exam, it's not supposed to be open book, but if I really have trouble answering a question, I will probably look at my notes. But I will try and, again, do it like it is exam conditions because, yeah, I don't want to, I don't know, it's the one unchanging variable, essentially, and I want to keep that the same. It's the control variable, so I don't want to change that. And yeah, I will see you after the exam. Hey, so I, as you can see, I'm not in the same place that I was before. I'm actually back in Sheffield at my student house, so that's why the background is a bit different. But yeah, I am obviously not filming this on the same day as I filmed the first half of this video, and that is because, like, after my anatomy exam in that following week, I just became really busy with a movement that I've started with my friend and all of the Black Lives Matter protests, and I was trying to, and I still am, educating myself about race and institutional racism and all of those things. So that's why I didn't film this earlier, because I just got really involved with that. And I'm going to put links down below of like YouTube videos you can watch that are donating to funds to donate to, petitions to sign, all of those things, so they'll be down below. So back to the exam. From what I remember, because there's now almost 2 weeks ago that I actually did the exam, it was 3 hours long. I finished it and submitted it in about 2 hours, I would say, or maybe it was 2.5. But anyways, I took my time to look through every question, and I actually did use my notes a lot in the end, which I didn't really want to do because I did want to try and keep it to exam conditions as much as possible, but just the fact that I hadn't revised as much as I usually would have meant that I actually needed to refer to my notes a lot. At least I knew where those pieces of information were, so I could flip exactly to the page that I needed, which was good. But yeah, I think my final tip for studying anatomy, if you have an online exam, is notes. Make sure your notes are easily accessible and easy to like work through, so you can easily find the pieces of information, the diagrams, etc. that you need, because time is of the essence. So yeah, that's my final piece of advice, I would say. I really thought that, like I said, I could do it without my notes, but I just couldn't. It wasn't happening at all. It was just not a thing. And now I'm actually done with anatomy and like my entire university year, which is so strange. So yeah, now I'm just working on this movement with my friends. The petition is down below if you would like to read and sign. It's basically to not create a conversation, because those conversations have already been happening, but from the student side at least, to create a platform where all of these different conversations about including anti-race education, improving diversity of teachers within schools, and all of those things. We want to create a platform that serves as a way to bring all of these initiatives together so that they can easily communicate with each other and they can learn from each other. They can share resources, they can share like different methods they use, what worked, what didn't work, and give all that feedback to each other so that we can really create a unified movement towards change in the international schools, which I hope that it continues for a very long time. I now have the full summer to work on this, so that's my main focus until I start my placement year. However, I will be doing some placement videos, how I got my placement, tips, all of those things will be coming up soon, so keep your eye out for those. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry, a bit all over the place. I can't really remember what I filmed, to be honest. Anyways, I'll see you in my next video.